Welcome to the Two Doors podcast, where we open the doors to Australia's top minds in tech, talent, and transformation. Hosted by Alexander Gil, founder of Two Doors Recruitment, we cut through the noise with real conversations from leaders building the future of work. Subscribe to the show to hear and see more of these types of conversations. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Doors podcast. I am here with John Goodship. John has over 10 years of experience on both sides of recruitment career ladder. John is now a talent engagement partner within Medibank's corporate and customer team, a firm believer in the human approach to recruitment with a goal to make sure every candidate experience is memorable and encouraging. John has previously worked for Afterpay, Method Recruitment, and Red Hat Recruitment in London. Outside of work, you'll find John lost on some form of running trial or lost in a book on theology. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, well, what an intro.
Hey,
what an intro.
Exactly. I'm excited about this. And what's been going on lately?
Oh, man, we're just busy. Always busy. I feel like you get to Christmas and you expect a bit of a break, but we're just ramping up and continuing to hire. It's, there's no rest really for the wicked. So
yes, I've actually heard a theory lately that apparently we're in this phase of quiet cracking where everyone's working so hard because it's return of investment, all of this. They're keep going. And so I think everyone's looking forward to the break.
Yeah, no, I think everyone needs to take a break as well. I feel like that's everything. Every conversation is leading to take a bit of time off. Let's slow down interviewing. Let's slow down whatever. Just take that time out, even if it's a couple days. Just put your feet up, turn the laptop off, just get it done.
Yes, it's almost like Kit Kat needs to get good at marketing again, doesn't it?
It's yeah, Kit Kat, where are you at? What are you doing?
I love that. And now for people who haven't been blessed to meet you, John, I've managed to see your whole career of stepping up in Australia. It's been brilliant to see. So you were part of the Afterpay lot when that was that massive growth and everything. Yep. And now you've been at Medibank for a number of years. And tell us a bit about what you've been doing there.
Yeah. Oh, I remember when you and I first met, actually. And it was at a random, it was the Melbourne meetup. I think it was the Melbourne Talent meetup. So shout outs to those folks. And you and I were competitors for a bit of time as well. I used to see your posts and I'd be like, oh, I think I'm working on that similar role over there. But yeah, no, I was graced enough to work for Afterpay during its spike period. And that story is kind of funny where I was working for Method Recruitment, the agency. And I remember saying to my boss, I'm not going to go anywhere. I love the work that I do here, but if a Google or an Afterpay or an Amazon, knocks on my door, I'll be interested. And then about 3 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Afterpay. See you later. But yeah, so I was with them for a good bit of time, for over 2 years during their ramp up. And obviously COVID was during that time as well. So that was just incredible to go through that growth stage and the amount of amazing engineers we spoke to. I feel like there was Canva, Afterpay, and Google just kind of trading amazing people, and we'd have amazing talent from Canva for a bit, then they'd take ours, and a bit of a bidding war sometimes. And then landing into Medibank, after the Afterpay Cash App type stuff that happened, so the block acquisition, 2 years with Medibank. I feel like I joined yesterday, and just seeing this huge transformation from health insurance to a more health-based company to Amplar, which is part of Medibank as well, getting to work with the cool guys over at AHM. So that's been really cool. Now I'm on this podcast. Feels a bit surreal to get here. How did we get here? We got all the way back.
It's awesome. It's great to watch. And I know some of our conversations have been brilliant. And I'm looking forward to digging into some more about what you've been doing around the NPS world. Because it's so important, isn't it, that we receive feedback from candidates that are going through the process or have been, but then it's not biased, right? Yeah. It's why are we only getting feedback from people who have got a job? It's obviously going to be more biased, but how have you been tackling that?
Yeah. So when I joined Medibank into a really great team, we looked at the NPS scores, and granted, NPS score it's more about improvement and understanding why humans come back to a brand or what they enjoy, and really taking that feedback. So weirdly enough, we were only sending it out to people that hadn't been successful. And usually the types of feedback we would get would be relatively negative. So we took all of that negative feedback and looked into how can we improve processes and how can we change things. And the biggest thing was just communication. Just straight off the bat, it only took 2 comments to realize it was just communication. And so that was one of the biggest things we did pretty much immediately, is restructure how we're communicating with our candidates, which, is difficult, but I think I've learned this over my 10 years of, it doesn't matter what you're saying. If it's, hey, no update, then they still appreciate that. And that's like been point number 1 for almost everyone on the team, or no, it is everyone on the team now, to communicate every step of the way. And it wasn't until later down the line, as our NPS scores started improving, we then included people that were successful. But like another amazing hot tip for people is, when you get that random survey in your inbox, let's say you buy something from a random shop or whatever, and you get that, hey, give us some feedback, you generally just tend to dismiss it. But if I say, hey, Alex, I'm going to send you a survey, a feedback form, you don't have to do it. But if you could, that would be great. That will help me, that will help us, whatever else. And if you say that to someone, they're more likely to do it. And that was a huge turning point for us as well. So now we had more people doing it because we had the people accepting the role and also getting it. And the people that were unsuccessful were also doing it. And we had all this information. So I can't remember our last NPS score, and I think we're just waiting on it. But we did see like a 40-point increase over the space for a few months, which was just crazy. And that feedback's invaluable. And, whether it's good, bad, like we want to know so that we can be better. So yeah, I was pretty cuffed about that.
I like how you frame it as well, because I do see it often. I mean, not to bag one of the supermarkets, but they always come at me after I've been there, and it's just like, no, I don't want to do your survey, but you've explained to people why.
Yeah.
And I think that's a leadership principle, right? Why do you get to the why? It's like, I'm educating them. So I like what you're doing. And what's the importance of doing NPS? Like, should more companies be doing it if they're not doing it? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you always want to improve, right? I feel like you just need to constantly be striving to know what people are enjoying and what they're not enjoying. Honing down into that. I mean, I would much prefer to get negative feedback than positive feedback, because when you get positive feedback, it usually strokes the ego a little bit. And I don't really want the ego to be stroked too much, but I want to know, what didn't you like about this experience? Like, what could we improve? Because that's the golden nugget right there. Like, as long as you know what people don't like, you can just build on that and progressively get better. And that's the importance of doing it. But you need to be careful when you do send out a survey. And I'll use 7-Eleven as an example. Like, they've got their little tablet there, and you can put the smiley face or whatever else. You press the smiley face thinking that's all you're going to do, but then immediately get assaulted by about 8 different questions, and you're like, oh gosh, this is way too much. Keep it very simple. For our case, it's like, what is the role that you went for? Who was the recruiter that you were working with? 2 very simple questions. Would you refer Medibank to friends and family? Is there any additional things? It's very, very simple. It's not a long process. We give them all that time to put in everything. We don't target like, was this good? Give it a 5 out of, or whatever out of 10. Is this good? It's really, really simple. And that's the important part as well. They're doing something for you here. They're providing something to you for absolutely free. And one thing just to mention as well is, I add a little bit of humor when I do tell people about it. I'm like, put in there, give me a nice pay rise or something like that. John Goodship deserves a promotion, which, it just takes the edge off of something that's important as well. And also clarifying with them that if you do this, it's anonymous. Like, it's not going to come back to haunt you. Because as well, like I think with Google reviews and stuff, like sometimes I'm hesitant to put a review up because I'm like, oh man, if I go back to my barbers and I put a horrible review, are they going to like chop it off or something?
Yeah.
Is the ear going to come off? So I think it's really important when they do a feedback survey to say, hey, this isn't going to come back to haunt you, and your feedback is valuable. And I've never gone back to a candidate and been like, hey, that thing you said about me? Well, I don't like that. Whenever anyone does it, and maybe I can recognize it, I'm always conscious that this is someone who's taken that time, and I'm very thankful for that.
But that's humility, John. I'm similar. I love feedback. I love to learn. but not everyone is like that. It takes a certain amount of, integrity. But I once worked at a large corporate recruitment company, and we did an anonymous survey, and then the HR lady got everyone together to go through the anonymous survey. And then she asked us 3 times, does anyone want to change this answer?
No.
And we were all like, how bizarre is this? And you see memes of this where it's like, I've given an anonymous survey, but it's not anonymous.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't build trust.
Yes.
And it doesn't want you to give feedback, because I always find if someone's going to give me bad feedback and learn from it, I can grow.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're on that journey when you're thirsty. So anyone listening, John deserves a pay rise as well.
Yeah, if you're listening.
I'm only messing. But I do want to dive into something that you guys have been doing for a while. So that is the 4-day work week. Tell us, how has that been going?
Yeah. So just to preface that, like, I think I was my second week at Medibank, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to try the 4-day work week?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I think I do." I was like, no hesitation. And there was another chap, I'm sure he won't mind me saying his name, Christian, who joined that week. His first meeting of the day was quite literally, "Hey, you're on the 4-day working week." And it's been going amazing. And I think there's a lot of stats out there from Andrew Rechko and Caitlin Redden, who are some of the senior leadership here at Medibank. And they've put out a lot of really interesting stuff. But from my perspective, it is such a natural way of doing a 4-day working week. So for context's sake, it's not like we all work additional hours every day and then we all have to take Friday off. It's very flexible in the way that it works, where it's a more mature environment where if you've worked throughout the week, maybe do a few things around automation to, try and get things done quicker. Or if you do spend a bit of extra time after work, sure. And then on the Friday, can you take it? Is there the opportunity to take it rather than you just have to? And for a lot of people, that's been working really well. For myself, I don't find like I'm doing anything additional over the course of the week, but I found like I've been a little bit more focused on the tasks at hand and focused on the meetings that I go to, and cutting down, rather than an hour meeting, it's now 45 minutes. And then sometimes that'll cut down to 30 minutes because we're all on the 4-day work week and we all want to get through things quickly. So it hasn't really cut down on the quality. Definitely with candidate screening calls, they still go on for 15, 30 minutes, however long. But when it does get to the Friday, we use that in a way that works best for us. So there are some people here that do work the Friday, and that's fine. But come 12 o'clock, they're offline and they can suddenly have their weekend. And I say this on the phone all the time to people that Friday to me is my most relaxed day. I'm usually in my pajamas when I'm working because I've woken up a bit later, or I've gone for a big run, and I get in front of my desk and I start doing my thing. And, eventually it gets to the afternoon. I'm like, I'll take that time off. But I've also done the flip side where I haven't logged on a Friday and gone on vacation or whatever it was for a long weekend. So I think Medibank have done the right thing by not putting a automatic stopping point, like you have to take Friday, otherwise it's bad, because there will be people that have anxiety about it. I mean, I know I've gone into my weekend being like, I haven't finished something in a full 5 days. But the biggest stat that I think is still available is there was a 15% decrease in home to work life just challenges. So what people are saying is like the 4-day work week has enabled them to have better work-life balance and home life balance. Wow. So there's less aggression, or there's less challenges or conflict. Sorry, the word is conflict I'm looking for, which, I mean, if you can do that just by ticking a box or like changing one thing, I think every company in Australia, albeit the world, would do that. So that's been a really, really cool fact.
That's fascinating. That's an amazing statistic as well. 15% less conflict. And because it's right. There's a law. I don't know if it's called Conway's law, whatever the law is, but it's like if you set a timer for that amount of time, you'll do the task in that amount of time. And it's like, so it's fascinating to hear what you've been doing. And obviously that this impacts culture. It's a unique selling point. It's like, hey, we do our work in this amount of time. But when you're an above average human, and what I mean by that is you love to go the extra mile, you love doing great work, your brand is your name and it's out there. It's like, you find yourself, you would tinker anyway on the weekend or do whatever, but it's like not being obsessed with it. So I love that buffer that you talk about.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think, just to really throw more stuff about Medibank here, like we are remote, like the majority of us we work from home. And I know people always talk about culture and generating culture. I have one of the best teams ever, and we all work remotely, but we've been able to just have a really great environment that's built up of trust and transparency. And, there's no negative or ill feelings or anything. Like we all come together. It's mostly through memes and emojis and, video clips. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of businesses that, and I think I've put this on one of your posts before I commented, like companies that mandate days in the office and things like that, they don't trust their staff.
Correct.
And that's a very bold thing for me to say, but Medibank trusts that we're going to get the work done, and we get the work done. So there's no harm there.
And digging into that point, John, so how can companies build remote cultures that are inclusive, that are positive, that are healthy?
Yeah, gosh, that's a really tough question. Again, communication. And I think if that's going to be a title for this podcast, just communication, just being transparent and open with your staff and learning what works for them and engaging with them. I will admit sometimes it is nice to be together with everyone and have small events. And that's where you get deeper with your colleagues. And that's where you get deeper into that culture of what people are like. But yeah, in reality, just communication across the board. Get people to work together, whether they're not working on specific projects, but we have separate OKR groups, which are great. And I get to work with people in different parts of HR and different parts of diversity and inclusion. We all learn from each other. We then present together. So there's ways of doing it that doesn't involve people commuting for over an hour to the office every single day, to then commute another hour, to then be tired when they get home and then have to do work when they get home as well. So yeah, I think Medibank has kind of done an amazing job in ticking, just getting that right. So yeah, and that's not, by the way, I didn't design this or I'm just going to say straight away, Medibank have done that. Like the HR team here, the diversity and inclusion team, is just awesome. And they use a lot of data for their thinking. And I think on top of that, the stakeholders and the senior leadership team, they recognize this information, they build up on that, and they say, hey, this is working. Let's not change it. Let's keep it the way it is. So
I love that. I love it. And digging deeper into candidates now, because you and we see hundreds of resumes a week. We speak to a lot of people, and I mean, there's certain psychologies behind resumes. There's loads of things, but what are candidates getting right at the moment that are sticking out for you?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like it changes all the time because I'm suddenly shocked by like a new approach or a candidate does something. The thing that I've always found is when people reach out on LinkedIn, I always get hit by kind of the same thing, which is, are there any roles available in this field? Here's my resume. And I've already got, and I don't want this to be like, oh, woe is me recruiters, but I've already got so many resumes and so many things to do. You know what it's like. It's a very busy world in the world of recruiting. So when we get that sort of message, I want to respond. I really, really do. But sometimes I just don't have that time. So the things that have worked are when I get a message saying, John, I've seen this role. Here is my resume. I've also applied. I've got this, the skill relating to the role. Would love to have a chat. And it's that message there where they're giving me a statement, and they're giving me ammunition in terms of what I can go back to the hiring manager, and then I can build on that. They've also applied as well, which is really important, because the worst thing you want to do is get through a process, and then you find they haven't actually applied, and you have to upload them and everything else. But that works really well. There are some, and this happens with a lot of juniors. They tend to send me a giant wall of text. I can't read through that. That's a lot of text, especially with all the messages. I think for a great example would be the recent post I put on engineers. Like I was asking for engineers to reach out, and I think I had about 150 engineers reach out, which is a testament to the network that I have. And you've obviously shared your network as well. But, going and talking to all of them, the ones that were put through to the interview stage made it very easy for me. And there were obviously ones that, maybe did put the wall of text and still went through. But to stand out really, those messages to recruiters, cultivate that network. One thing I really love as well is when a candidate reaches out to a hiring manager and has a relationship there. And then the manager's like, hey, John, have you heard of this person? Like, no, I haven't. It's like, can we put them into the interview process? Because the manager has a lot of sway as well. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I'd say.
It's good. So you're saying intentionality and help them to help you do your job.
Yeah.
Because I see it as well. Like I get many messages and like people like aren't even in the country and and it's like your inbox is swarmed constantly. Like I'm very diligent. I love to normally get down to 0 messages, but like right now I'm just in a phase where I'm out of balance. And it's like, and I don't mean it in any harm or anything, but it's like people who I've got a relationship, I'll be like, oh, John's message. Oh, look at the message. Like it's like, but someone random that you don't, that's just in your network, you have to be intentional. You have to network. You have to communicate well is what you're saying in all of those points. And then you're able to just go and do your job a lot easier. They facilitated that rather than, hey, I know that I'm not very good for this role, but here's the point I'm making. It's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are good for the role. Like, so, try and find network. There's positions for everyone out there, but you have to be intentional with them, right? And what about in terms of like resumes or cover letter or anything there? Like, is there anything standing out for you at the moment?
Yeah, so I have like a kind of a blanket rule with resumes, no pictures. And that's not that I don't want to see your pretty face. You're all wonderful. I love seeing a face, but it can create instant bias, and we don't want that. And I don't want to send a resume of a picture of your face on there because it might be very pretty and they're like, oh, they're a pretty person, let's get them in. Not the opposite, but get rid of pictures. Always make it 2 pages long. If you're a contractor, you need to find a way to condense down how many roles. But usually, if you're a permanent employee or you've been in a company permanently for a long period of time, 2 pages is more than enough. Interests, I'm hit and miss on interest. I love a good interest, but it also creates bias. So, and I'll give you a great example of this. I remember reading one and they were like, they collect ninja stars. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. Ninja stars. Holy heck. So, immediately I'm talking to the person like, by the way, this ninja star collection. But then like someone else might read that and be like, they collect ninja stars. They're dangerous. I don't want a dangerous person on my team. I'm not going to tell them. So it's a bit hit and miss. But yeah, interest is something there. But really, tell me about what you've done. Like, make it clear where you've worked, what your role was, and what you've done. Because the amount of times I've called someone who've applied for a role, and by the way, if you apply for a role at Medibank, if you email our careers team and ask for feedback, we will give you feedback. In before anyone who listens to this and realizes that they can do this, we're going to get swarmed. But anyway, we want to give feedback. We just can't. When we get 200 people that apply, I'd love to give feedback to everyone. But that's a full-time job in itself for one role. Oh, yeah. But yeah, when people call me or I talk to them and they say, hey, I'm right for this role, I have this experience, then I go through their resume and they don't have that experience, it's at that point I'm like, well, you need to make sure you tell me what you've done. If you've been a BA and you've dealt with a really large digital project, then tell me about that project. If you're under an NSA, obviously you can't tell me, but tell me what the project did. If you're in sales, like tell me the size of the sales that you're doing or the areas or the industries. If you're a recruitment consultant, the amount of recruitment resumes I've seen that don't tell me the field they're in, it's crazy. So I know it's really easy to get a template, type in what you did, but there's a difference between I call candidates on the phone to I call 100 candidates a week on the phone. There's a huge difference between that. So make sure that you're telling recruiters what you're doing so that we can really understand the full scope. Now, there is also the flip side of that, which is you're giving information and maybe it's not enough. But in that way, you're opting out of that role in a good way because maybe the role isn't right for you at this point. But guaranteed, like the more information you provide from I guess a statistical sense, the more successful you'll be because we'll be able to make an immediate assumption of your experience. So yeah, I don't think I can give any more examples on that, but
you've made a few great points. I would love to challenge you on something though.
Yeah.
What's wrong with biases? Like for me, when someone puts their Lord of the Rings fan on their resume, I'm like, this is my person. But then it's like, I know where you're coming from, I feel, because we had Fung Mei on the podcast who's at Upbank. I don't know if you know her. She part of the not co-founders, but runs Programmable, massive D&I advocate, amazing woman, high energy. And we were talking about diversity of thought is great for company, diversity of people, because you can get to better outcomes. But I also think that sometimes when there's a connection, it can be good, like Lord of the Rings or something. But yeah, I wanted to challenge you. What's wrong with biases?
Yeah. I think biases can really just sway people immediately away from what you're actually looking at as the experience and the skills of the individual. And I'm talking biases from anything from names as well. You know, people can immediately discern from a name, you know, someone's ethnicity or nationality. And we really want to avoid that. And we really want to focus away from that and on the individual and the skills that they bring. So, you know, as I say, interest, I love interest. Personally, think they're great. But I do get nervous sometimes when I see that. So, I mean, I think in my case, I've put like reading and running, like they're just the two things I put. They're very safe hobbies. But yeah, just use accurate judgment, I guess, you know, depending on the type of role. If maybe you're going to a smaller startup, then probably put interest there. If you're going to a big, I don't know, big four or a big bank or something, maybe omit that. But yeah, you can get those sorts of things out during interview, and you can get that when you're talking to the recruiter as well. Like the amount of times I've like stumbled into video game conversations with candidates, like it's great. Like I love it. Suddenly I really like the person. But yeah, to me, bias, you want to remove all bias and you just want to focus on their career and what they've done. And then the investment afterwards is learning more about them and, you know, their individual personalities and how they're going to fit. But you know, unfortunately, we and this is part of the recruitment world as well. Like I remember seeing old colleagues that would just flick through particular names and they wouldn't want to have a look at them, or they wouldn't take a care in the world, or when they're looking for particular genders and things like that, they'll just skip candidates. And it's that wasn't the world of recruiting that I wanted to do. I wanted to have some real love for each individual and, you know, wanted to treat everyone as a human rather than just a resume. So
but that's because your approach is different, and that's why we get on, because we're both ethical. We care about humans. It's like, you know, you need to chuck some biases out the window. Yeah. It's about finding the right person for the role. It doesn't matter about names and all of this. So I love talking about this with you, John, and bringing this into land then. So any imparting wisdoms, anything you'd love to share with the audience?
Yeah. That's it. You throw it on this one. Imparting wisdom. There's nothing really. I just think, you know, acting to people with real human experience and actually creating those connections. That's kind of what I want to say. Like there's a word actually I'm thinking of now, sonder, which I don't think is a real word, but it's a word I've heard before, that is basically the idea that everyone has their own thing going on. And you go grab your coffee, the person in front of you in the queue, like they've got their own stuff going on. And I think we as individuals, we're very quick to only think of ourselves and what's going on in my life and how am I doing, and forgetting that the other person on the call have got their own stuff going on. And yeah, I think you probably experienced this as well, but the amount of times I've been on the phone to someone, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I've just lost my dad, or my cat's in the hospital, or whatever else. Like we have to engage in that on a regular basis around people going through some pretty significant stuff in their life. And I just think if we're all conscious that everyone else has got something going on, we can create better relationships and better experiences. And as a recruiter, we're in such an incredible position where we talk to so many people every day and every week, every month. Like it's incredible. Like when I walk through the Medibank offices and I see people that I hired, you know, 2 years ago, and you helped me get the job. I did. Yeah. What's your name again? No, I'm kidding. I always remember. But I think that's just really, really important. And there's one thing I learned more and more so over the past few years is like my understanding of people's character as well. Like as a recruiter, and this is for all of our talent and recruiting folks listening, just using your inner judgment and inner confidence in what you think of someone when you're talking to them. Like we have like a spidey sense, and we can often understand like what people are going through. We can hear it. We can naturally hear a little bit in their voice and the tangent of their voice that something's going on or something's up. You know, you put an offer out to someone and you're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to accept it. And the manager's like, how do you know? And like, I just know. I can just feel it. So I think if we all continue into this human experience, and from a candidate perspective as well, like your recruiter's got a lot going on as well. So sometimes be a bit nice to them as well. But at the same time, do put a bit of pressure on your recruiters as well. If you've got a recruiter ghosting you, then, that recruiter needs to step up. Like, I'm bashing my industry a little bit here, but the amount of times, and this is not a humble brag, this is me genuinely hearing this a lot, where people are like, you're giving me feedback? Yeah, I'm going to give you feedback. You deserve it. You've interviewed 5 times and you didn't get the role. Like, yeah, of course you're going to get feedback. It kills me to hear that people aren't getting feedback. I can see as well in your eyes right now. You're like, yeah, I'm totally angry about this as well, but we should be angry. Yeah. Like, you interview once, maybe you don't get the best feedback in the world because you've only interviewed once. But you interview a couple times and then you get ghosted. What the heck is that about? I don't understand. Like, I don't think I could go to bed at night knowing that. And then this actually happened last week where someone called me and said, hey, John, sorry, I was busy. Can we go through that feedback? And I was unwell last week, but I got up and I went to my laptop and sent them the feedback, said, I'll give you a call on Monday and we'll talk it through properly. Just because I couldn't sit there and be sick without letting them go to their weekend with this feedback. So that's a lot of imparting wisdom. But
that's lovely, though. It's a shout out to the industry to keep upping the level of integrity and as a service, because with the rise of AI, a lot of group recruitment will get taken over, whereas it's the leadership levels, it's everything like that. And if people are having great time with your service, then they'll keep using that service. So it's not going to go anywhere. I've seen that Australia is one of the top 5 for recruitment in the world. And then it's quite funny because the percent of recruitment companies to people is like really high compared to other worlds, which is great thing to hear. But thank you so much for coming on the show, John. It's been great. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. It helps the growth of the channel so we can keep interviewing some of the best minds that there are here. Thank you very much.